Welcome to the MEF2C cast, the podcast advocating for the MEF2C haploinsufficiency community by broadcasting the voices within. I'm Eli.
And I'm Haley. We are parents to a boy with MCHS and autism, sharing our journey with you throughout conversations grounded in learning, support, and community.
This is Advocacy Amplified. Do you have questions, comments, or a story to share? Want to be a guest on the show? Connect with the MEF2Ccast on Facebook, mef2ccast.com, or email us at mef2cast@gmail.com.
If you enjoy the show, please support us by subscribing to the show on Apple and Spotify, leaving us a review, and following us on social media. You can also buy MEF2Ccast merch at our Shopify store, linked in the podcast description. The MEF2Ccast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily of the podcast or its sponsors. This is not medical advice. Consult a healthcare professional for medical concerns.
Alrighty, hi everybody. Welcome to the MEF2Ccast. Our guest today is Helle Folden, mom to Andreas, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. All right. So can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Yes, of course. I am originally from Denmark. We live in Spain. I used to live abroad before I had children. I also have a daughter who's almost 12. And I used to live abroad. I lived in America. I lived in San Francisco for a while. I lived in Brussels, Belgium. And then I lived in Spain. And then I took leave just for personal reasons for my job and went to Denmark. And that's when I had my kids. And now I'm back in Spain, but I brought my kids this time because I had to go back to my workplace. And I'm the single mom. I had my children on my own, so there's no father involved, which obviously, can be, well, it has its pluses and its minuses. But just when it comes to moving to Spain, I didn't have to ask anyone's permission. I could just move with my kids. But apart from that, it's tough. I chose to have a second child after I had Andreas because I thought that I have very little family and I wanted to have a sibling for him, just thinking, in the future and everything. And I think it was a good choice. But obviously, it's tough because, you have to deal with your MEFT and then you have a second child and you're on your own. But at the end of the day, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I'm still here and I'm still managing. And we're 16 years down the road and yeah, it's okay. So anyway, we live in Spain and I'm going to retire in about 7 years' time. And by then, I don't even know if we're going to move back to Denmark or we're going to stay in Spain. So that's a bit up in the air. But we're open, to living in other places than our homeland. For me, I've been abroad for so many years. For me, it's natural. So yeah. So
Yeah.
that's more or less us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So sort of tell us about Andreas's life and what sort of early signs let you know that maybe something was different about him.
Well, I was a first-time mom when I had him, and I thought there was nobody around us, pediatrician, whoever came to the house. Nobody suspected anything. He latched okay. He was breastfeeding for a year and a half. He seemed like more or less a normal baby up until 3 months. And then I went to have his first shot and he had a horrible reaction to the shot. Like he was so ill. He had such a high fever. And I was even calling the doctor in the middle of the night and he came and he said, well, it's just to be expected. But I felt like he was changing after the shots. So when I came back for his 5-month appointment for the next shots, I said to the doctor, I feel like there's something wrong. I feel like he changed after the 3-month shots and there's just something off. And she was not really interested because in Denmark, they're very, very busy, the doctors, and they have about 5.5 minutes for you and they're out the door again. So she sort of put him on the bed, the mattress that they have in there. And she was saying, well, look, he looks like he wants to move from the, stomach to, the prone to the supine and back again. I wouldn't worry about it. So there was absolutely no examination of him. And she gave him his shots, the 5-month shots, and he got so horribly sick. He was screaming for 12 hours nonstop. And I know he has his diagnosis. I know he has his genetic defect, but I usually say that I lost him at 5 months at the shots. That's when he changed completely. Like before that, nobody was saying that there was anything off about him, but he became a rag doll. Like he used to follow me with his eyes. He used to be attentive, interested in toys. He just went to limp rag doll. And I took him to the pediatrician at 6 months and she said, you know what? literally trying to get his attention, holding him in front of her, like just like this. And she said, I don't know if he's blind, Hella, but there's something completely off here. You need to we have to, find out what's wrong. And that's just when the journey started. And exactly on his first birthday, I got an email even. Nobody rang me. They just sent me an email. So, well, we found out that he has this one missing a bit on the long arm of the chromosome 5, and we don't really know much about it. And you'll need to make an appointment just to speak to the geneticist about this. So that's really, I mean, it started to become quite apparent because obviously he wasn't hitting his milestones and all. But I mean, you guys, you know it, you've been there, you've done that. But I just think, yeah, I think something happened, with those shots. Like they just really got him off the track. I'm not gonna say that he was gonna be perfect if he hadn't had them, but something just happened there. Like, so he had such a hard time sleeping. Like he was just not settling down ever. Even, as a baby, they usually sleep a lot, and he couldn't sleep. And then when he would fall asleep, he would wake very easily. And, he'd had to be walking on tiptoes around the house. And even then, just one floorboard would creak and he would be awake again. And it was just pure madness. Like for the first 5 years, I just didn't sleep.
I used to
Yeah.
say my big toe could crack on the walk out of his bedroom
Yeah.
and he would wake up again, so yeah, completely get that. I think sleep is a big problem for a lot of
Yeah.
families.
Yeah, it was even still now, like, I, for whatever reason, kinda get, like, a cough in the evenings, and, once she gets him down and then I have to, like, bury my head under all the couch cushions to cough
Oh,
because we're
God.
so worried that, if I
Yeah.
wake him up, then we're hosed, so even little things like that, it's just
Mhm.
funny how your life changes and then, like, you go somewhere in the evening where he's not, he's asleep and you're not around, and people are like, "Why are you covering your face with a pillow to cough?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, I
The
guess
famous
that's not."
cough.
Yeah.
It's like everybody dreads it. It's when you feel a tickle in your throat, you're like, "Oh, no, 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 please, please, please." And you swallow and you swallow and you think, "Please don't cough." And then you
Yep.
just make a sound because you're trying to suppress the cough, and
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
wakes them up as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah,
it's
so
nothing.
how old was he when he was diagnosed?
Yeah, that
Mhm.
was on his first year
Oh, that's right.
birthday. So
Yeah,
that
you
was
said that, I'm
literally,
sorry.
we were holidaying in Cyprus, and then we were having a great time. And it was a pity to receive that type of email on his birthday. But then at the same time, at least I knew what was going on. And at the time, because this, mind you, this is 16 and a half years ago, no, 15 and a half, they knew literally nothing. And
Mhm,
there were very, very few children diagnosed. Obviously, we did have the internet, but it was just not there was not as much information online as there is today. And when I spoke to the geneticist, she said to me that we don't really know much. The only thing we know that we see from literature is there's epilepsy, there's reduced mobility, nonverbal, the typical traits. But I turned it around and I just decided there and then. I thought, well, fine, if there's no proper outlook, if there's nothing that they can, let's say, determine the future, the road is wide open. Let's just move in the direction and see where we get to, because there's nothing limiting me. Obviously, he wasn't babbling and making all the sounds that he should. So I knew probably we were heading in the direction of the nonverbal. But the reduced mobility, I mean, he walked when he was 2.5, and I was working very, very hard. This was, I was telling you about this therapy, which strengthens the fascia, the connective tissue, and it works in certain key areas which are needed just to get up and standing and keep your balance and all this. And I did that for about a year and a half, and that's when he took his first steps. So I feel like that was really something that helped. Because obviously, you need to have the structure. You can put on braces and all sorts of things, and you can let them stand in walkers. But if the body is not, let's say the structure is not there and it's not strong enough, then it's just not going to get you to where you want to go. So I really would say that people should focus on really strengthening not just, the body in itself, but just focusing on the connective tissue, because it really is the thing that keeps everything together, really. I mean, you know that the connective tissue covers literally everything, every organ, every muscle, every bone in the body. And it's just all connected and it's just moving together, and it's just a beautiful thing. So if you look into what the connective tissue can do, you will see that if it's strengthened, in certain key areas that is going to be the deciding factor whether somebody's going to remain on the floor or is going to get up to the upright position and maybe walk.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, it sounds like you're talking about like more fascia specifically. If you think overall long term too, like I think most mefties are hypermobile, and because of that, their connective tissue and their joints are going to take way more stress than most people's would too, just because they're going to be moving in positions that most people wouldn't. So it is really important to focus on that so that that tissue can deal with those stresses, excuse me, over the long term. There was
But
something
that's
else.
why it's also important. That's what I said. Just let's say the strengthening the muscles and
Yeah.
strengthening just the general mobility. Doing all the. I'm not dissing physiotherapy at all. I'm just saying that it needs to go hand in hand with other, let's say, measures that they all work in synergy and are gonna get you to where you want to go, which is get the child up and walking. Because once my kid started walking, that's when I started insisting on him taking walks every day, long walks, longer and longer and longer. And he reaches sometimes the point, about 15,000 steps a day. And this is something that now he needs it. Like he wants to go out on a walk. He wants to get out of the house. And it's just for him, it's a natural thing. He's a homebody as well. But he needs that, and it's just because I kind of knocked it into his head when he was young that let's go out. And we were in Denmark. It's cold. You have to, really wear warm clothes half the year. But it's just one of those things, whatever conditions you as a child is going to stick with you for the rest of your life.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thankfully, I've been able to kick him into gear. And this is what he is. He's a very active child today.
Yeah, and your attitude towards the diagnosis was kind of similar to mine. Mine probably was a little bit of like willful ignorance or like naive optimism of like, here's this thing we know nothing about it, really. Here are the most extreme sort of negative outcomes, but we don't really know that much. And when I heard that, I was kind of like, well, if you don't know that much, then I shouldn't put that much stock into what you're saying. Not that the geneticist isn't as educated as they could be, but there's just not that much information that exists on it. So I wasn't too wrapped up in the negative aspects of it because there just wasn't that much information on it, if that makes sense.
It does, but I feel like I've spoken to many parents along the way, and not just, for children with the same syndrome as our children, but also other types of disabilities. And usually the doctors will paint a picture which is worst case scenario.
Right.
And many of them, if not nearly all of them, are just going to say, just go home. There's nothing you can do. Just be a good parent.
Mhm.
And it's just very disheartening because there's just so much you can do. Like literally, we're living proof. Like my son is just excelling. And I know that if I had not just put my strength and my heart into it, we just wouldn't have reached, the point where we're at now. And it's just very, very sad because they should know that you can make a difference in a child's with a disability. You can make a difference. So
Mhm.
why just say that, go home and be a good parent and sort of in between brackets say just accept the situation as it is. I mean, I did have I'm sure you also had a strong reaction to getting the diagnosis. It's not just something you just swallow and you go home and move on with life. It's tough, it just shocks you to your core and takes a while to get over. But like you, I just shook the dust off me and just got up and carried on.
So you talked about can you tell us a little more about like what you did to get him walking specifically? Like,
What was the therapy like called? What did you do there?
Right. This is the one with the fascia, the connective tissue.
Yeah.
It's called Advanced Biomechanical Rehabilitation. It's a big title, but in short, it's ABR. And I know that it exists in most of the Western world. We did it in Denmark. They have it all over Europe. I know they have ABR in Canada. I'm not really sure about the US, but it's something you can do at home and parents do it. You can even get a machine that will work during the night. It's just a question of applying a type of pressure that will make the connective tissue respond and it will become thicker and stronger. And it's something I think any parent can learn how to do. I know there are quite a number of the parents in Europe who do it with the MEFD children, and they've all seen improvements, but it's not a quick fix. It's not something you see the difference from the one day to the other. It's going to take years, but it's a lasting thing. Like if you strengthen the connective tissue, it's just gonna be stronger for life. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's not like a muscle that can waste away. It's completely different. So that's why it's so interesting to work on the connective tissue.
Yeah, you're the first person that we've had really that has talked about that, so it's interesting to us.
Yeah, I know they're not everybody knows about this, but when you
Yeah.
think of it, and I'm sure you can, jump into the subject online, but there's a wealth of information about it and it all
Yep.
makes sense. And this is what reduces the hypermobility that you mentioned before.
Mm.
Because my son was like a floppy kid when you would take him as a baby and hold him like this. It was just a he hung like that, like a rag, but he's not like that at all. Now I actually invested myself in vibrational plate.
Mhm.
It's called the Galileo and it's quite famous. It's not cheap. It's medical equipment. It's not just one of those vibrational plates you get off Amazon for $200. Not to say that they don't work, but this one is next level. They use it in hospitals and physiotherapy clinics and places like that for rehabilitation. And it's just amazing. And my son, and it strengthens the bones, it strengthens the muscles. And it's just something where they don't have to do anything except just stand on it, which
Yeah.
is great because, they can't follow instructions and stuff. And it's really difficult for them to sort of get their exercise in,
Yeah,
apart from
yeah.
the walking and all this. But the vibrational plate, this Galileo, is just it's wonderful. I mean, I really recommend if you can get either you can have access to it in some clinic or you can get it for your own home. They have various models, but this is also something that I recommend. And there are many studies that shows that it works. It's made in Germany, but they sell it all over the world.
Yeah, I think in the US now, the one that they use at our clinic is called a Hyper Vibe,
Yep.
and it's I don't know, I looked into it, it's like a $5,000 machine, but, I
Yeah.
mean, you could look into getting insurance to cover that as well.
Yeah.
I haven't tried, but, the physical therapist at Leo's clinic has offered to, like, write the prescription for it for
Oh yeah.
us if we were wanting to try to get one. Correct, yeah, so
I would
Yeah.
definitely go for it because it's super because they literally just have to stand on it. Like we
mhm,
even have the brace that he can hold on to just to,
yeah. It's good
and
for
he has
you
his
too, for the
iPad
base.
and then he's happy.
Yeah, and as you were talking about that, I was actually thinking, I wonder if that would help with the hypermobility because, like, it's kind of funny because for most people, you would be talking about fascia in the context of trying to become more mobile and trying to like break all that stuff up and make it more. But in the case where someone's already hypermobile, it makes sense that we'd want to do the opposite. So once he got walking, sort of, how does your story go on from there?
Well, I mean, the thing is in Denmark, we have something which is quite unique. I'm not sure I know they used to have this model in Norway, but I think they stopped. But in Denmark, you can actually choose to, instead of having your child go to some, you know, kindergarten specialized or school, you can train at home and they will pay you a small salary. They will pay for your therapies, your whatever, you need, the tools you need, even a helper sometimes. Like I did that for 11 years in Denmark. I trained Andreas full time at home. That's a lot of people will not have access to because, somebody has to bring home the bacon. But I had that option and I decided that there and then that this was what made sense to me, that I could make that difference in his life. So I didn't feel like it was a sacrifice, but obviously, I was always at home. I didn't have a job that I would leave in the morning and I could go and spend time with my colleagues and think about something else. But disability, sometimes it's quite a relief. I was in it like 24/7. But at the same time, it helped me with my sorrow and my way of dealing with the grief of having a child with a disability. And in the end, I just think it worked really well. But that's just made a huge difference for us. So I'm very, very thankful and grateful that we had this opportunity in Denmark. I wish it would be like that in other countries where parents could choose, because we know you know yourself that especially for Andreas, it was just not a good option for him to go somewhere because the noise would just make him like he would just be there rocking or stimming because he just couldn't deal with it. It was too much for him with the noise from the other children. So it was just not a good option. And he wasn't getting anything out of it, like socializing. A lot of people think, well, they have to go and socialize with others like them. I hate that expression because, what difference does that make? I think if at all he should spend time with anybody, he should be with neurotypical children so he could actually, model and see what, let's say, again, normal behavior is. I don't see why to be with other children with genetic defects, why that would make his life better. So at the end of the day, it was really just a question of being at home, doing our training, spending time with friends and family, and it worked a charm. Like, he was not able to go anywhere where there were a lot of people when he was very young because he would just start crying and he couldn't manage. It was too much. But now, I mean, already when he was like 5 or 6, you could just bring him literally anywhere on the train, on the plane, to busy Spanish restaurants. And they are very noisy, I have to tell you. And he would just sit there and eat. Like, I remember once we had a meetup with some of the Spanish families here in where we live in Alicante, and there were like 4 other families, and all the kids were just, they were suffering with the noise, and Andreas just sat there and he just ate and he was looking around, and because he's not that super challenged child sensory wise any longer that he used to be, because the training just paid off, because
Yeah.
I desensitized him. We just did all this sensory work, and we did lots of cognitive stuff. We worked with the Family Hope Center in Philadelphia, as I mentioned to you. And I mean, they just have like individualized programs for the children, and it's always based in wherever they are and whatever the parents can do. So it's just tailor made completely to your needs, and we did that for a number of years. And we've just done so many things, and I just see that it's just taken him to a place where, yeah, I can literally take him anywhere. Now, after 3 years in Spain, I mean, I spoke Spanish because I lived in Spain before. But when I brought the kids, obviously, they didn't know anything. And he now understands Spanish. He speaks, if you speak English to him, he understands, he responds correctly. So for him, he's trilingual now.
Mm.
I mean, these kids are not stupid. They may not be able to verbalize and tell you what's going on or what they're thinking, but he's showing it to us on a daily basis.
Now you
If
said
he can learn languages,
You speak Danish to him.
yeah.
He still understands Spanish and English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And there, obviously, like autism in general is a huge spectrum, but I think the way they live their lives and sort of maybe not being able to speak and do the things physically, like they absorb so much more because it's so critical for them. I have a friend he's originally from Kentucky, but he lives in Cyprus actually, and his son is autistic and he speaks like not completely fluently, but like bits and pieces of like 20 different languages because like
Wow.
if you hear someone say something in a different language one time once, he absorbs that and he knows what that phrase means now. Or like you watch a movie with subtitles on, well, it's a foreign language, you have the language you speak on and subtitles. All the stuff that was said in that movie, he knows what it means in his language now. So
Mm.
I think in a lot of ways they're even more receptive than typical people would be to those things. And our friend Susan talks a lot to your point about socialization of like you might take your kid to an event and you might know that you're going to make it to the door. Like that's it. But, after a few times of that, you might make it in for 5 minutes. And then after a few times of that, you might be able to stay for half hour. So like it's important to keep trying and to set the expectation of like, yes, this is going to be very brief or it's going to go poorly, but we're going to give them a dose that they can handle and we're going to
Build
keep
on
building
that.
this up. But, like if you show up, like we took Leo to American football game this year, and like we knew that like there was only gonna be so much he could handle, and the game was starting, and they play like a hype video on the video board, and it gets real loud and stuff, and that freaked him out, and we were walking out of the stadium as they kicked off the ball, but that's okay. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
important to sort of set those expectations for yourself in those situations so that you can build up over the long term as well.
And we're really
And
bad about, like, not going into grocery stores or, just going into places. I'll do, like, a pickup instead. And for a long time, I didn't even realize how that was negatively affecting Leo. But then his babysitter, he goes to an in-home babysitter, and she started taking him everywhere with her. I mean, he is now capable of going into grocery stores. He can go into restaurants. He can do like, all of those things because of her, not because of us. You know, we, both work full time, and it's hard for us to, like, also get out there, and when we do get out there, we kinda just wanna go by ourselves sometimes too, so
yeah.
it's really nice for her, to have him out in the community like that, and then I took him into, like, Walmart one time, and I was like, "Wow, this is really easy," and I had to reflect on that, like, he is now able to do these things because she takes him to do them so frequently. So that now, every time I go to Walmart with him, I make him walk to the door and, like, make him walk inside, and, we've built on that, and he doesn't wanna do it with me. So he has a different
Yes.
reaction to doing things with different people, and that's a whole different story on its own because even with eating,
Yes.
he won't eat like for me like he will for grandma, and he won't eat for grandma like he will for the babysitter.
Okay.
He knows how to play us. But yeah, you're completely correct on trying to get these, kids into doing a ton of different things and just getting them.
I just want to mention, and this is maybe me going off at the deep end, but I like to think that also the microbiome has a lot to say when it comes to their reactions and
Mhm.
their behaviors and sleep patterns and all this. And I've done parasite cleanses. I have done, as I said, the gluten, dairy, sugar-free diet was constantly on. You always supplementing, and there's just a high degree of focus on. I'm using homeopathy. I've used a lot of kinesiology, reflexology, stuff like that, just to get the gut brain connection working better because we do know that if the gut's not working, the brain's not working either. Or there's certainly a lot of disturbance going through from the gut to the brain, and that just erupts in poor behavior or meltdowns or tantrums or what have you. And this has a huge impact on how much on where can they go with you
Yeah.
and how are they going to behave when they get there and how long are they going to manage. So this is something that I always focused a lot on, just the whole trying to get him as healthy from the inside and out. And when I started doing that, I started seeing the results in terms of him being much more receptive to going places, to being with people, even noisy places, just being outdoors and all this. I mean, this is it progressively just got better and better. And so I think that people need to also have focus on that side, that it plays a huge role. It really does.
That's a conversation we've actually recently started to have with Leo on his diet. Just kind of we go to the things that are easy to grab or, just easy to and quick to give to him. But
Right.
just the other day we were talking about taking him off of the dairy for the leucovorin, and the majority of what he eats is already dairy. And, that's getting protein into him, but it's something that we are considering trying to take him off of just to improve that gut to brain, connection.
Don't get me wrong, I understand that we're all sort of hanging in by a thread and but at the end of the day, when you start to see the gains that you get from moving away from ultra processed or whatever, what have you, easier solution to I'm saying home cooking, but also just more simple food, maybe cleaner food. Um they will start to appreciate it. You will start to see the gains, and it's just going to make your life so much easier. So even though initially it's tough, especially with somebody who's very used to, let's say you start taking, I started already when Andreas was 2, so he hadn't really grown a taste for pizza, hot dogs, or pop or whatever. So he was not sort of missing that. I didn't have to take anything away from him because he just didn't realize it was there. So it was so much easier for me to just move into that new diet zone. And it worked a charm because he literally eats anything. I mean, he's always eaten anything. I can serve up nearly anything in front of me, he'll eat it. And he eats really a lot and he eats well. And he's progressing physically as he should. He's tall, he weighs whatever he should for his height. And he has no, deformities or any abnormalities. As I said, the seizures, they disappeared. I just I just think that this is so important to think about it. With those small adjustments, they're going to have a huge impact. And you're just going to pave the way for just a much healthier and normalized future. So it's worth considering, even when you're pressed and you haven't slept for, years. Some of us haven't slept for years. But it's just that way that you just have to make up your mind and say, well, I'm just going to see if maybe this is going to do the trick. And for us, it did. I'm not saying he sleeps great, but he sleeps really well compared to before. Is he ever going to sleep like a normal person sleeps? I don't know, but he sleeps much, much better. And when he sleeps, he sleeps, and it doesn't take a cough to wake him,
Yeah.
just a small cough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, general autism is kind of the best proxy we have for MEF2C as far as I can tell. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. And there is some research indicating that the gut-brain axis could play a role in autism spectrum disorder. So, your ideas aren't entirely just, woo-woo
On the deep
nonsense
end.
or anything if someone thinks that. But, it's also important to remember that all the individual variances that happen in people in general are overlaid onto someone with MEF2C. So it could be that if you cut all these things out of Andreas' diet and he's doing great. Someone else could try it and it's like, I didn't notice any difference. And okay, well, then they can have dairy and gluten and whatever. But all these things are maybe magnified more in people that already have this condition, as opposed to like a normal kid might be able to sort of buffer all that a little bit better. So, and if it makes a small difference in the short term, that small sort of improvement that they get every day over the long term is going to lead to a lot more improvement over time. I guess what I'm trying to say is these are issues that may affect people in general, but with their condition, it sort of amplifies them, and every little bit of uh, sort of like optimization you can get out of whatever aspect of their lifestyle could really add up over the long term.
Well, yeah, because what you're doing is sort of an exponential
Mhm.
effect you get. It just gives you many, many more gains at each step of the road.
Right, yeah.
It opens up a door to a lot more, and it's down the road that you're going to start. It's always looking back. You can see the gains. It's hard to see when you're in the middle of it. But now when I sit down and I just sort of do an audit of the last 16 years, or let's say 14, it's incredible that we've gotten to where we are today. Like, this is a kid who already started riding when he was just 4. He had his own bike when he was 4. I mean, with three wheels, and then he moved on to 2 wheels with support wheels. And as I said, walking a lot, swimming. I mean, I don't think that would have happened if I had not put my mind into just making all these changes. And mind you, those many years ago, there weren't as many gluten-free products on offer as you find today. I mean, it was me baking most of his bread, because bread you need. We eat this dark rye bread in Denmark, and it's like a staple in our diet. Like, everybody eats it every day. And it's just something that, I didn't want, because he was already eating that, but just the regular rye one. And I wanted to make a version that he could eat. And he just enjoyed it so much. Like, for him to move into that territory, it was no problem. The whole diet changed, because as long as you just make delicious food, you can very easily make delicious food just avoiding gluten. It's not that difficult, and dairy as well. Like, we use coconut milk a lot. It's almost like cream if you want to make a creamy whatever, Thai dish or whatever. I just think it's important that people at least give it a try. I'm not going to say they're going to go, all in and do
Mhm.
everything. Just try a few things and see if it pans out, because you might make gains, but it's always trial and error, with these kids, and it's not something where you're going to see a difference in a week. It might take 3 months, but then once you start seeing the gains and the changes, that's when it really eggs you on, and you just want to keep doing it, because you can see, actually, I can make a difference. This is making his life so much better, and it gives you more energy and more. I don't know. It helps a lot. It's a therapeutic process. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Andreas can speak, correct?
No, he has a few words and he
Right,
has a
right.
few signs. No, I mean, as I always say, I would give my right arm just for 10 words.
Right.
Literally, I
No,
would.
no, I didn't mean like he was fluent, but
He communicate.
he
He
can say
communicate.
some words.
Yeah.
When did he start to gain that skill?
I think it must have been when he was sort of 4 and 5. The signs that he has today, a few of them he's made up because he couldn't imitate the ones that he should learn.
Mhm.
But he invented his own version and they work really well. Like, more, it's like this, the simplified version in Denmark. But he does this. So he uses this all the time. And thirsty, it's this, but he will do this. And, it came around. I think the signs came very quickly. Done, all done. That came quickly. And it was like he hit a block and he couldn't learn anymore. So, and then I spoke to a speech therapist, and she said, it's typical that we see this, that they learn 3, 4, 5 signs very quickly. and then they just stop and they just can't learn anymore. So he learned them around 5 or 6. And ever since, it's like we haven't progressed much. But I'm beginning to hear him trying to enunciate sort of stuff after starting on the methylfolate. Like I think there's something there, but again, it's only, I think, a parent would notice,
Mhm.
like others are just going to say, what, but you can tell because in our kids, like small progress is huge, so we see it. Uh, and with the but the communication, like, I mean, Andreas has a full deletion, so he literally misses from, as I said, 84,000 to 89,000 a full deletion. So I don't have any hopes that he's gonna even speak 50 words. I would rather just be surprised, happily surprised. So I've already put that one on the shelf and just try to focus on other things that he might achieve. But I know that the speech thing is one of the biggies. I mean, this is really difficult. It's really, I don't know about your son, whether he has words or even
No,
He says mama when he wants her, but he also says it as that, like, ma is pretty much only
like sound.
yeah, syllable he can
okay.
make. He
Yeah.
he started doing ba a little bit too.
Yeah.
But it's funny, actually, what triggered that is he was, like, yelling, and I put my hand over his mouth, so he went, "Ba, ba, ba, ba," and then he was like, "Oh, ba, 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 ba."
Yeah.
But several people we've talked to with, like, sort of late teenager adult kids have said that they made a lot of progress in speech
Okay.
relatively late, like, 17, 18,
Okay.
19. So,
Well,
I'm not saying
he's
that.
gonna be 17 in April, so
Yeah.
fingers crossed. Maybe we're gonna see something.
I'm not
That
saying
would be
that's
nice.
necessarily gonna happen to anybody, but, like, we talked to the Aguirres. They live in Colorado, and their daughter's 19, I think, and I think if I remember correctly, she can speak well enough to call them on the phone. Not, like, have a full conversation with them, but call
I
them
know.
and tell them that
What a
needs
dream.
something, or at least, they get a phone call from her, and then they're like, "Okay, we need to," "Maddie needs something, we need to go figure it out." But does he use, like, an AAC or any kind of device to communicate?
Well, we have it. This is what we work with in speech therapy. We have I can't remember which app it is, but it's just one of those pictogram app
Mm,
things. I think he doesn't like it. The speech therapist says it's like that. They don't like it, but we just have to keep insisting. It might take a year and a half. I am kind of a softie. I'm thinking, if you've been trying for a year and a half and you're not getting anywhere, maybe we should try something else. I really wanted him to try out the Toby Dynavox,
Mhm.
mhm,
but it's just like the therapists, they don't have the same faith in it as I do. I had the same problem in Denmark. They just didn't think that he would be able to use it. They say, well, he's always looking away like a typical autistic child. And I said, yeah, but he still looks, otherwise he'd be falling over everything in front of him. He
Mhm.
sees, he has vision. And he looks at you and he looks away. Yeah, but he looked at you. So he looked. I mean, I just don't understand this. Just let us try it out. So I'm
mhm,
still pushing for it here in Spain. I know that our speech therapist is in contact with somebody who sells this. I don't know if it's Toby or it's something similar. It's another brand, but I still want him to try it out because I'm just thinking he's gonna have one of these light bulb moments where he realizes he just has to look at the thing and it will speak for him.
Yep.
yeah,
Just
well,
let us try it.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I know at least 5 or 6 kids at least who can use it relatively well. It would be, it's not like, again, it's not like he would be fluent, but it would, if he could use it as well as they could, it would be a significant improvement over the communication he has now.
I think so, and I think that we owe it to these kids to just try out
Mhm.
anything that might work or not. I don't care if it just let us try it out, and if it doesn't work, fair enough, but at least we tried it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's always this, you have to put up a fight against the rest of the world almost, like authority, medical authority, whether it be a doctor or a therapist or whatever, because they just don't have the same positivity. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
mean, we've been really fortunate that, like, we almost all of our doctors and therapists and everything have been amazing. Like, we had one ophthalmologist we didn't really like and we switched, but, like, so we haven't had to have that fight, but I am always ready to. Like, when we walked into our
yeah,
IEP
yeah.
meeting, like, I was ready to throw down, and I did have to go back and forth with the one lady on a little bit just on, like, the phrasing of one of his goals, which was, like, we have a deeper understanding of IEPs than most parents would have going in because my mom is a special needs preschool teachers and she's been writing IEPs her whole career. So like most people wouldn't even care to put that level of detail into his goals. So like it was kind of a trivial thing in the grand scheme of things. But other than that, like we're always ready for a fight. We haven't found them yet, but
I mean, we always go into things having our research, having all of the facts and everything ready for the providers. So I think that's a big reason why
Yeah.
they are kind of a little bit more easygoing with us. And it's funny, I work for a pharmacy, and we what the owner went and did a little bit of marketing around our community. She went to my son's pediatric office and was talking about Leo and all of the improvements and everything that he's made on the leucovorin with one of the providers. And they were like, "Yeah, they know what they're talking about, you know. We're just gonna give them what they want because they come in with the information that we would want from them." So it makes a big
I
difference.
think that plays a huge part that you come in, as you say, armed to the teeth, because you need to just be there to be the advocate and to be the warrior for your kid.
yeah, and I think the difference too is like in the US, it's probably a little bit easier for us to get what we want out of providers because of like private insurance and like, you know,
Yeah.
if we don't like our doctor, we can go find a different one. And whereas but then we still have to fight the insurance company to get what we want. Whereas it seems like in Europe and Canada, you're just having that fight that you would have with the insurance with the doctors themselves. So you're still having that same fight no matter what. It's just a different you're essentially fighting with the government instead of with a private insurance company.
I think that's true, but that was the case in Denmark. I'm a civil servant of the European Union. Once I return to work, then we are also with the medical insurance, the one
Gotcha.
that we have
Mhm.
for the European Union officials, and they have been a lot more cooperative. Obviously, I get full coverage of all medical costs because he is considered to have a grave illness, which is a blessing in disguise because they also pay for care and everything. I mean, I've gotten more help through my insurance at the European Union than I did in Denmark. Like they literally just kept taking the help away from me. And this was one of the reasons that I decided to go back to work because I was on leave. And I just didn't see it happening going back to Spain with a disabled child and the sister and on my own and no family. And I was just so worried about it. But at the end of the day, it was just a matter of survival. And I needed to go back. And it's turned out really well. Yeah, it's tough going, don't get me wrong. But talking about insurance, experience the same as you, at least when you're dealing directly with the insurance, you have to go through the national security of this national system, then it just becomes a lot easier, and they are more open and willing to help. Let's
Mhm.
say so. This is thank God that we got to this point that this was the added benefit of me coming back to work. Then I could get more help with my son, and I can choose a different pediatrician if not. But we have a brilliant one. I have to say, I even maybe I was wrong when I said because I really had good doctors along the way, but I think also it's your own attitude, walking into the, to see them. I mean, if you come in and you just expect them to fix your situation, because I think a lot of people are just hopeless and they just, maybe they just don't have the energy to find out and inform themselves, then I think they get a bit dismissive. Whereas if you come in and you're trying to, be on their level and stuff, and I mean, I remember our pediatrician in Denmark used to say that I know more about this syndrome through you than I ever would have, had I tried to find the information myself. And the same thing with the pediatrician we have here. Like we can exchange information. She's taken stuff in that I said, and she's been very thankful. Said, "Wow, this is great." Like the leucovorin and everything. I mean, I was the first one to mention it to her.
Mhm.
So to be honest, I mean, we're in good hands now. We really are. But I still sense that with the place, the therapy place we go to, like the therapists. I mean, sometimes it's just I don't know. It's frustrating. Because I don't know what kids they deal with, but maybe they're better functioning because they're just not getting it when you have a kid like ours, where they really need help and they're not just adapting to like I think my son sometimes resists going to his therapy center because he's just
Knows.
peed off, because he knows he's going to sit there again with the iPad and he just doesn't want to. And I can understand him, like going for 3 hours of speech therapy a week, trying to do the same thing, and it just doesn't work, day in and day out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to communicate with them and say, we need to have a fresh approach on this one. I don't think it's working. And this would be the moment to say, let's try the Toby Dynavox or
Mhm.
something else.
Yeah. Have you ever tried like physical, like there's a system called PEX with like cards or like we have
Yeah.
laminated pictures? Because
Yeah.
I find with Leo that there seems to be, I don't understand what it is. Maybe it has something to do with his CVI, but like things,
Yeah.
him using the AAC seems to be more difficult for him because it's on the iPad. Like, I think a lot of times there's a glare on the screen that makes it harder, but also just like it doesn't seem like he conceptualizes things the same way when they're on the screen versus if it's a physical object that he can manipulate.
That's a very valid point. And I think for all of our kids, because most of them, if not all, have CVI,
Mhm.
and it's a huge impediment. It really makes it very, very difficult for them to see what we see and we take for granted, like a pictogram with a stick figure. I mean, who's to say that they know that's a person?
Right.
Mhm.
They're just seeing black lines on a white background. We see a person eating, we see a person walking. They might not.
Mhm.
So I've been trying to convey this to the speech therapist, and it's as if, I'm speaking gibberish to her because, of course, why wouldn't he? And I'm thinking, well, why would he?
Yeah.
Why not use photographs, at least just for a start or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, I told them, you need to have high contrast. Like she had made the pictograms with a light gray background or even medium gray. And I said, well, the contrast between medium gray and black is almost not there. How do you expect him to see it? And only then, after a while, because I realized by accident that, that the contrast was, it's not working for him. I said, you have to change it. It needs to be white or yellow or whatever, and then finally I'm thinking, a speech therapist should know this. I've been talking and preaching about CVI because it's just, it's the back. I mean, literally, it's the foundation of seeing and learning. You can't see, you can't learn.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that. So it's very frustrating that these things needs to be repeated constantly because it's just, I think it's sad because I'm thinking wasting a lot of time trying to teach them something and then you haven't given them the optimal, let's say, that what they need to even start learning.
Right, yeah. Well, and I hadn't considered until you said that, like so, like, what I was talking about is even if you gave Leo the same 2 choices, one was on an iPad, like, the same image, one was on an iPad and one was on physical cards, he would have an easier time with the physical cards. I don't know what it is about the screen, but it just seems like
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's
quite make it
true.
through. But to your point about, like, the pictograms, so there's very famous autistic woman, she's a professor, her name's Temple Grandin.
Yeah,
We
I
talk
know.
about her all the time on here. We should
Yeah.
make a bingo card that people can use while they're listening to this with all the things we usually talk about on here. But anyway, she talked about once I heard her when she was a child, so, like, she understands what a dog is, and she's seen, however many dogs throughout her life. But then one day someone in her neighborhood got a dachshund, and she had no idea that a dachshund was a dog because it's small and squatty and like it didn't fit into her the concept she uses is bottom up versus top down thinking. Like she
Mm.
takes a bunch of data and assembles that into a category, whereas other people may have a category and then fit things into that. So she didn't understand that a dachshund was a dog because it didn't fit into the sort of model of every dog that she'd seen up to that point in her life. So like, it is possible that people could look at pictures like you said and just not make that connection because it's far enough out of what their conception of say a person is that it doesn't even occur to them that that is a representation of a person.
Well, we tried with the PECs already way a long time
Mhm.
ago, and he just wasn't responding very well to them. But I have to be honest and say that I think that his CVI was just much worse at that time. And for him to just grasp, look at something and again with the stick figure, we even tried to put with photo. I think we had more luck with photographs,
Mhm.
but it was just, I think the interest was not there. And this is another trap that you fall into. And I think most of us know this, that we know what they need before they even know it themselves. So there's not even any incentive to ask for anything. We're not going to let them go for 24 hours without eating because we're going to force them to tell us that they're going to tell us that they're hungry. We know when they're hungry. Most of the time we choose to serve them food at the hour that we expect them to be
On
hungry.
routine.
And in the end, we serve their needs so well that communication is just not really that important to them.
Yeah.
So for them, I mean, this is a bit of a trap.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like they have to, and, it's not like laziness or stubbornness or anything. It seems like
No.
they have to have a pretty significant, like, motivational drive to get their body to do what they want it to do. So sometimes, and this would be, this is probably good general advice, like, we'll just keep things around and Leo might not use them right away, but we kinda show him how to use them, and even if it doesn't seem like he understands, like, we have it's not really PECs, but it's a bunch of picture cards on a whiteboard with Velcro, with pictures, TV shows he likes and food and stuff, and, like, we tried working with him several times, and he wouldn't figure it out, but that thing sits in, like, the windowsill in our living room, and then one day this week or last week, Leo marched over there, yanked a card off of TV show
Yeah.
he wanted to watch and brought it to Haley. So, like, he just has to be in the right state of mind that he's motivated enough to actually use those things. But you don't know that if you just try something a few times and then go, it didn't work, and
Yeah.
then never tried.
Yeah.
I mean, that board has been sitting in our window for or even just in our living room in general for 6 months. He hasn't touched it. It's
Yeah.
just been sitting there,
Well,
so
yeah, and he'll sit there and, like, look at it sometimes, and
Mhm.
he'll get real mad at it sometimes, and I think what happens when he gets mad is he wants to use it, and he
Yeah.
just can't make himself.
Yeah. It must be very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, there's nothing that they would rather do than sit down and have a conversation or just manipulate us. Like, because my younger child, it's just a different behavior. Like they will try and manipulate you when they can. I mean, they're very nice, kids, but they use you for their own benefits,
Yep,
and this is how it works.
yep.
And they can't do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my son is very, very content. He's a very happy child. He is somebody who spreads joy and love everywhere he goes. Like people are so receptive to him. He has literally taken people into his arms and they start crying. He has such a tremendous effect on them. And there's just something special about these kids. I don't know what it is.
You're so right there, and that is pretty universal. We hear that from nearly every family that we talk to. They just have such a level of charm to them that's extraordinary, compared to, typical kids. Yeah.
Well, just compared to the world, like,
Yeah,
I mean, to be honest, they just bring something to this world that the world needs. Like, you can just tell the
yep,
people that when he hugs them, they really needed that hug.
Mhm.
And
yep,
most of them don't want to let go. Like, I'm always sort of there, I'm sorry he hugged you. I mean, sorry if you don't, no, it's fine.
yep,
And then after, let's say, 10 seconds, I'm like, okay, Andreas, I start to speak to him and say, that's, you're done, that's fine. And they're like, no, 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 no. They keep
yeah.
hugging. So there's just something there that they add an extra layer to the world and they bring love and they good vibes. I don't know what it is. This syndrome is angel syndrome, I would almost call it, because they're like angels. They really are.
Yes, I mean, at that football game that we were talking about earlier, Leo made a friend with somebody in the row in front of us, and he decided that, like, he was gonna love on her, and he usually doesn't really give love to people other than, like, me or Eli, but he just, like, open mouth, like, tried to kiss her like he would try with us, and he tried to give her a hug. As we were leaving, she said that, like, it truly made her day for him to, be as loving as he was towards her. And it was just her specifically. I mean, she was 4 people down in a row in front of us, and he just, made contact with her, and that was the person that
He
he had
zoomed
chosen.
in on her, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think
they have a knack, they know exactly who
Yep.
to
Yep.
go for because Andreas used to be very huggy with everyone, like literally homeless people in the street. If I wasn't watching him, if we were in line at the post office, he'd hug everyone in the queue. But
Mhm.
he's much more selective now. You can just tell that he's singling those out that they need a hug, those people, and
Yes.
he's usually never wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about this earlier this week too with a different podcast guest, but I think that these people can weed out like authenticity in a way that's really unique. I think again, it's just like if you live your whole life where everybody's treating you a certain way, and especially the older kids, like they probably dealt with a lot of people that have been kind of patronizing or condescending to them. When you meet someone who you can tell is really being themselves and really being genuine in, trying to connect with them, I think that they pick up on that really quickly and they respond to it extraordinarily well.
But to bring him, so he should be coming down the stairs. And hang on a second, they're on their way. He's going to come and sit down next to me in a second. But I know that you brought me on. Also, you think it would be interesting for people to know what it's like to have an older MEFT child. And I have to say that it does get easier if there's any comfort. Come here, Timur.
No. Hi. It's so nice to meet you.
That's Haley and that's Eli. He was upstairs and he was having a good old time, and now
Oh,
he's like
man.
down to the living room.
Sorry, dude.
Andreas, say hi.
Hi,
Hi, buddy.
Andreas. It's so awesome. We're so excited to meet you.
They're excited to meet you. Are you excited to meet them? Yeah. Yeah. He's very tall. He's like
Yeah.
6 foot now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's not going to get much taller because, it's just better. They're not too tall either in terms of
Yeah.
if you fall and stuff,
Sure.
But he's a handsome fella. He's tall. He's healthy. He's not prone to infections because I saw that there was a cast where you spoke to someone about how the kids might be prone to more infections. This is not the case with him at all. He is very healthy. He's very healthy. Yeah. He's healthy. He has hay fever like me. That's it. I mean, I think he inherited my hay fever. He inherited my dust allergy, but that's it. But otherwise, there's nothing.
Yes.
That's great.
So do a cleaner. And he's a happy guy.
Yes.
He's really always in a good mood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
It is so
Yeah.
awesome to be able to meet other MEF2 kids.
As
Uh,
I told you, he's a hugger.
yeah.
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 Yeah, we
So is
love it.
Leo.
And he's very, very good with his iPad. Like I don't know about you guys, or your son, but Andreas he's just managing the iPad. Like he's swiping, whatever he wants to see, he will find it. I mean, obviously he can't search, but he will always find what he wants. And
Yeah.
he's just completely a pro, on YouTube. As long as you block the screen so he doesn't get into other applications, then, he's done. He's sorted. Yeah?
We don't really let Leo have his iPad because if we give it to him and then try to take it away, he's just
Ah.
a bear the rest of the day. So,
Okay.
yeah, we try to avoid that. Not that we don't want to. I would love to be able to. It's just
Yeah.
keeping his mood.
It's difficult when they struggle with doing other things.
Mhm.
Andreas, I mean, you can take the iPad away from him. He will be annoyed for 5 seconds and he's done. And then he loves all his toys and his playroom. We have a playroom and he has all sorts of stuff that, spins and has lights and noises and horrible things. And that's it. And he'll be happy as Larry. Like, he can
Yeah.
play for hours without an iPad, but he does love his iPad. He does.
What kind of things does he like now?
He's always watching music videos. I mean, I always played music for him when he was trying to sleep. I found that especially classical music had a soothing effect on him. But now he's very much into just techno music, but he also loves like Thomas the Tank Engine. I mean, children's tunes and cartoons. He loves Peppa Pig. He loves, what does he watch? Dora the Explorer, stuff like that. Especially when there's music involved. He's just a music buff. He
Yeah.
could listen to music all day long, no problem. And
Yeah,
then with the vestibular, they want to go for car rides, train rides.
That was gonna be my next question. Does
Yeah.
does Andreas like swings and stuff?
Oh my God, he's the best. Like last summer, I had a swing constructed at my mom's house in Denmark for when we go on holidays. It's a
You know
huge,
what? I
sturdy
remember
one.
seeing that. It's like
Yeah,
a
I put
big
a video
wooden
up.
kind of arch thing. No?
Yeah, I
Oh,
had a carpenter make it for me, especially. It was just we were trying stuff out, and it's great. He goes literally like up to vertical, and from vertical and up to horizontal and back again, and he doesn't fall off. He never had any accidents. So he's very, very good on the swings. I mean, and he has very good balance now. He still walks slowly, but it's also because I think he's maybe a little bit lazy, to be honest. There's maybe some laziness involved because when I walk with him, I tend to not hold his hand because then he starts to walk lazy. I touch him on his hip, the opposite hip, and I walk right next to him. And for some reason, it just psychologically makes him stand up straighter, walk more steady, walk faster. I don't know why. But as soon as you grab his hand, he just sort of, God, you can take over now. And I'm just going
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
do you
Leo
know what
does
I mean?
the thing going up steps. He doesn't wanna go up steps if you're helping him, but he'll do it
Ah,
kind of, if you hold on to, like, under his armpit, he'll go, but if you hold his hand, he won't go. Hi, Andreas.
say hi.
Hi.
He's having a bit of hay fever because for some reason
Uh,
here in Spain, we just get pollen like all year round. So,
Yeah,
we're a bit struggling a bit. It's just very much up and down with the hay fever here in the house. But
yeah, that's
no,
fun.
but I mean that's the thing that sometimes touching them very lightly, especially I see on the hips, that just makes them sort of aware. That brings us some sort of awareness, a body awareness. Whereas
yeah,
holding by the hand has a negative impact sometimes.
yeah.
At least that's my experience.
Well,
Y
yeah, and I think sort of intuitively it makes sense because if you hold them by the hand, you're giving them a little bit of support
Support.
there, and they don't have to work as hard. And
Exactly. You take over
mm,
and
yep,
they let you do, and you have to,
right,
yeah, let
yeah,
go of some of their autonomy, and it just has repercussions, physical repercussions. So I
mhm,
really recommend people not trying not to hold their child by the
yeah,
hand, but instead walk next to them, holding by the hip or by the shoulder, whatever works.
yeah.
Try that approach, see if it helps because it many times it does.
Although Leo will drag us around by the hand a lot to get what he wants, so
And you can let them. It's not
yeah,
Yeah,
as if you can't hold their hand. Of
mm,
course you can. It's
I've
right,
just
talked
keeping
about
that
ti
in mind that you can see a difference in it's a mental thing. It's not a
yeah.
physical thing.
Yeah, I've talked about tying like a string around our waist so that he pulls the string rather than our hand so that he actually
Yeah.
like tells us like what he wants that way. But that would have made more sense when he was trying to learn to walk, I think. Because he would grab our hand to get to what he wanted and then he wouldn't walk as well when he was learning. So
Yeah.
we're a little bit late on that.
But some people use a piece of rope that the child holds the rope and you hold the rope and you walk
Yeah.
like that.
mm,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because you're still sort of holding on to them. You're close enough, but
Yeah.
they're not holding your hand. Something
Right.
just happens when they grab your hand.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just again, I'm just speaking from my own experience, but
Yeah. That's all that this is.
exactly. It's just I'm a bit the word I think is concerned that there are more and more children diagnosed. I don't know. I remember reading that this is an emergent syndrome. So what are we seeing? Are we just
well,
seeing
so I think as I understand it, like the reason more kids are being diagnosed with MEF2C specifically is simply because genetic testing is becoming much more ubiquitous. Like the numbers, different estimates are from anywhere from 1 in 30,000 to 1 in 3,000 people
okay.
think actually have some variation of some kind on that gene. And it's plausible that a lot of just autism spectrum disorder cases are MEP2C cases that just haven't been diagnosed genetically.
Is that a fidget?
It's not a fidget. It's actually like a labyrinth thing that my daughter had. She's no longer playing with, and he found out that it's funny with the little balls inside, and then also
Uh,
yes, you can spin it on the table. Anything that spins
Yep.
is so he'll try and spin many things that really shouldn't be spinning. So you need to watch out. But I'm just thinking that because there must be a lot of adults who have this chromosome
Right.
defect as well.
Yeah.
Then
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, like, I think roughly 2010 is when the disorder was discovered. I could be off a couple years, but um
that was the year he was diagnosed, and there were already a few studies
right.
available in
Yeah.
maybe
2010.
28.
2008 I don't know if 2008 is when the gene was discovered or when the disorder was discovered. We're actually trying to get
I think it might be 2008, like you
yeah.
said.
But anyway, so if you think about it, there almost certainly are adults who have this variation, and if they're like 40 years old and they've already got some other diagnosis, Like, there's no real incentive to test them. You know what? Well, I think there is an incentive, but there's no like urgency because they already have this diagnosis. So there probably are relatively a lot of undiagnosed adults out there.
But it's just interesting because there are many, many genetic syndromes out there. So I'm just thinking it just looks more and more like this one could be one of the bigger ones.
Hmm.
Am I wrong, or could that
I
be?
don't know about that, but you're right that it's become, well, it's, geez Louise, I'm stumbling.
Or it's
It's
a
becoming
difficult
more and more
subject?
diagnosed, and hopefully as genetic testing becomes more widespread, it'll get diagnosed a lot more because that means a lot more data, and we can sort of actually understand because it seems like, don't get me wrong, there certainly are many cases that are, as profound as sort of the worst case scenario you're given at the geneticist, but there are also a lot of cases that are a lot better. And it seems to me, just anecdotally, based on what I've seen, that the average is better than you would expect just based on the information you get at the geneticist. So hopefully, as we get more data, we'll get more data about sort of the breadth of symptoms that it can cover, and maybe it won't seem so daunting when people get their diagnosis. And then obviously the data can be used to hopefully find some sort of treatment as well.
Yeah, because obviously that's another thing. I've always resigned to the fact that there was just nothing that, anybody in the establishment could help us with, that it was all down to me. So I've done tons of things and I never expected anyone to sort of say, "Hey, now there's actually this one tablet you take one a day and and it's fine." So to be honest, I'm not hoping for medicine. I know a lot of the new parents are hoping for medicines, but I think when you're down the road, 16, 17 years, you just start to resign to the fact that this is how it is and it's just going to stay this way. And I'm not
Ye
even sure I would be interested in giving him any of the new meds, at least not in the beginning. I would probably wait and see if.
Right,
But it's
yeah.
part of the process of acceptance. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a huge factor. And I probably would have been much more wanting to try stuff out when he was 4 or 5 than I am now.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like MEF2C is more important, like, it's important in development, and there may be a point with treatment where, like, after a certain age, the term that they would use in the literature is be able to rescue. Like,
Yeah,
after a certain age, you wouldn't be able to mitigate those symptoms
exactly.
really. But it is
No.
possible that, with things like leucovorin or folate or whatever, there may be treatments that come out that you can use to improve their quality of life regardless of what age they are. But yeah, so and,
But again, it's just
go ahead, sorry.
important to know that you can do many things yourself. I'm not saying life altering stuff, but if you invest, you say, okay, well, we're going to try this for a number of years and see where it takes us. You will see changes. You will, but it
Right.
takes dedication, and you have to be determined. You want to do this,
Mhm.
and personal sacrifice as well. And whether it's even, possible in your life, the way your life is in your home situation.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But really, I just want to maybe just a shout out to people that, be optimistic and think positively. And yes, you will grow along the way when after the years pass. I mean, this is going to be, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I still worry about the future, but I'm just trying to tell myself and psych myself and say, try and stay in the present because you don't know. You don't know
Mhm.
the future.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, always worrying about the future. It's been driving me mad for years. And I think most of us struggle with that. It's a recurring theme. But I'm really trying. I mean, that's one of my things now that I really have to work on because it's not going to rule my life. I don't want to ruin the moment by worrying about the future.
Mhm. Yeah.
On
So
the lines
it's
of the future, though, what do you think your hopes are for Andreas's future and for your future as well?
obviously I'm hoping, but I can't make that demand that his sister's going to be there in his life and having an active role when I'm no longer around. But again, who knows what happens if she has her own family and she has a busy home life and he's just going to be an annoying uncle and they don't want to bring him home because he scares the kids. I don't know. But I have very little family, and that's one of my worries that he's going to be in a place where nobody's going to visit him. He's just going to be there on his own, but I know he's a happy guy, so I'm thinking maybe he's just gonna be okay, wherever he is. because he is very solid, like mentally and physically, and I think that's super super important, and not prone to disease, and not prone to. No, he doesn't have any. As I said, I'm so happy that I managed to get the seizures to go away because and he never took any epilepsy medicine, even though he had seizures. Because I kept saying to the pediatrician, I don't want to give him anything. I think he has they're too far apart and too infrequent but because she had like this very strange rule. Over 4 seizures a year, they have to take medication. And he was over 4. Maybe he was having 6 or 7. But I wasn't going to tell her, so I didn't because I don't want her to force him to take any kind of epilepsy medicine that I don't think he needs. So I was just doing all sorts of things, and in the end, they've withered away. I mean, they're gone. They haven't been back for 7 years, and thank God, because I think epilepsy really does complicate the situation a lot. And I think I would be much more worried for the future if he had epilepsy, but he doesn't. So I think he's one of the few ones who doesn't have epilepsy, unfortunately. I don't know about your son, whether he. No.
Not
No, knock on wood, no, he
Yeah.
hasn't. What is the percentage? I think it's like 20% of individuals who are not affected by epilepsy.
It's like, yeah, I think it's depending on what paper you read, the one that's coming to mind for me is 86% have some sort of seizure disorder.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're definitely in
Yeah.
the minority, but, how does his sister do with him?
I mean, he's not been too interested in other kids ever. Like, there's four
Mhm.
and a half years between them. So he was already 4.5. I'd seen him interact with other children, which there was basically no interaction, no interest. He wasn't studying them. It's like he notices adults, but
Mhm.
when he was younger, now he's an adult almost himself. He sees her now. He's been seeing her for the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, like properly. But before, she was just too young and too small for him to notice. And you know yourself with CVI, the low field of vision is just not available in the same way as it is for us.
Mhm.
So she was down in that vision field where, he didn't see her. So she practically didn't exist. And she was, I think early on she tried to have contact with him and felt he wasn't really responding. So it's a bit sad to look at that they don't have that sibling. I wouldn't say they don't have love because they do have love, but they don't have that much contact and interaction. To be honest, almost 5 years between them plays a role for sure.
Mhm.
But you know yourself that they don't notice other kids like normal kids
Mhm.
would. So but I can tell now that my she's going to be 12 in a week. She is really starting to step up now. I mean, it's crazy. Like I can tell that it's coming up naturally. Like she wants to help me with him. She'll even take him to the bathroom sometimes. And like that's a huge thing for me because, I work 40 hours a week and I'm very busy, and for me to always have to deal with him, I'm on my own with him on the weekends. Now that she's stepping up and helping, I mean, it just makes a huge difference in my life.
Mhm.
By the way, I wanted to mention that he only wears a diaper at night, that he doesn't wear a diaper during the day, and he hasn't for 2 years, 2.5 years.
That's
Actually,
incredible.
3 years now. We're coming up to 3 years. And that was a huge thing. Like, I really hoped that this would happen. I think he could even sleep without a diaper, but, I'm a
Are you
bit of a maniac
sure?
when it comes to the.
Yeah.
Was
So,
there anything really that helped with that? Do you think there was, like, a turning point in anything, or was it just, he was ready and
uh, he's been going regularly to the bathroom and doing number one and number two for a long, long, long time. And so I think at some point when we saw that the diaper was just always dry, we said, that's it, we're going to try. And I think he only had a few accidents in the beginning. Like, obviously, accidents do happen, but it's been very, very fun, long, between them. It's not been a recurring theme. It's not as if we're just pushing our luck every day. No, he really is free of wearing diapers. Like, he literally never has accidents. I can't even remember the last time he did. So,
Well, that's great. That's great for you, and that's great for him to, sort of
yeah,
have that independence. That's awesome.
I think a grown man in diapers is never a pretty sight. But so
Oh,
for me, this was really something that was a huge relief. And it's also a question of, not being judged by other people. Just they can tell
Oh,
that you're wearing a huge diaper and stuff. But I also realized that it's just the reality of it. Most of them will never be free of the diaper. And I don't know, tomorrow, maybe once he goes and lives in a home and he's not in with me any longer, maybe he'll end up in a diaper again. I don't know. I mean, you don't know if they're able to pay attention to him and take him into the bathroom like he needs to. Maybe there's not enough time, there's not enough staff. I don't know. And then they end up putting a diaper on him because just to avoid these accidents. So this is one of my worries, that he's going to lose skills, including this, once he moves out of the house. Because the reality of it is that most places, they just don't have enough staff and they don't have enough time and they just don't, it's never going to be like home. Never.
Yeah.
And that's the big worry, to be honest, that is. But for now, of course, it's great that he doesn't wear a diaper. And I'm hoping that it's going to be so ingrained in him and he will, he will come and out of his room and make noise when he has to go to the toilet. So just to tell us that it's time, which is great. But he can sometimes say tis, which is pee in Danish, but it's not every time.
Yeah. You can kind of just tell your instincts
Yeah.
tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. But he will say it, but most of the time we know it's about time you should go to the loo, so we take him, and then he doesn't need to communicate. It's like coming back to what we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
Yeah. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap this up. So it was awesome meeting you, Andreas. Sounds like you're doing really well. We're proud of you, man. Good job. Keep it
did
up.
you hear that? Did you hear that?
Mhm.
Yeah, you heard it. You did. Yeah. These are
Yeah.
good people. And they have a boy just like you. He's just much younger than you. What is he, 3, your son?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, this guy's going to be 17 in April.
Mm.
Shut
Oh,
up.
that's exciting.
Shut up. Hey, hi.
Hey.
He's a funny guy. I have to be honest, he loves farts and burps and all that stuff. And I know most of the kids, they're the same. I've heard his stories and
Mm.
I don't know, it makes me laugh. I mean, I think it's great. They have a good sense of humor, these kids as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
and laugh silly most of the time. I mean, he's a bit of a silly goose, this one, really. We laugh a lot. We really laugh a lot and it's great. But it wasn't like that when he was younger. I mean, he's certainly got much lighter, more happy, more well adjusted. It's been a process, really has.
Yeah,
But
awesome.
yeah.
Alrighty.
So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you, Helle, for your time. Thank you, Andreas, for your time.
Kan du sige farvel?
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you to our listeners. As always, you can
Thank you.
on mef2cast.com on Facebook, or you can email us at mef2cast@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody.